What's up, everybody? Jensen Cummings here. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. Today is Best Served Podcast 325. We're talking, can tech support restaurant mental health, workplaces worth working, episode number 12. We're going to be talking to two iconic figures in our industry, two individuals I look up to and hold in high esteem that are coming in this from a little bit of different direction. We're going to talk low tech, high tech a little bit. Patrick Mulvaney of Mulvaney BNL and I Got Your Back project out in Sacramento. And then also Jordan Boesch, CEO of 7 Shifts, New York, Toronto, Saskatoon, and somebody we've been collaborating with quite a bit. Mental health, you know how important that is, because if we have strong mental health and we invest in that, in ourselves, in each other, in our team, in our companies, in our industry, we have so much upside potential. Yet we get caught in our own ways because we leave it all out on the field, so to speak. We give so much hospitality to the guests. So often we don't leave anything for ourselves. We're very good at asking the questions to our guests to make sure that they have a phenomenal experience. Yet sometimes we're not able to ask those questions of ourselves, of each other. So that's what we're going to dig into. And we so often, as a chef, especially as a cook, I'm used to making things with my hands. I can't even talk without moving my hands around. And so technology sometimes is a little bit of a struggle because it's ethereal. It's these robots. It doesn't exist in the plane of reality that we're used to working in. We recognize that it is time to understand that technology is here. It is an absolute asset. And we need to figure out how to utilize the skills, understanding, and knowledge that we have that are foundationally strengths and deploy them against things historically we've been weak at. And technology is one of those for the industry. And I am done babbling. I want to bring in Patrick now to introduce himself. Patrick, good to see you as always.
Good morning. Nice to see you. Good to be
Patrick,
here.
For a little background for everybody, Mulvaney BNL, I Got Your Back. Break it down for us a little bit. Introduce yourself for those who aren't familiar with you and your work.
The BNL is in a 1893 firehouse. We're in the middle of the richest agricultural region in the world. So we just change the menu based on what the farmers bring in the front door and try and celebrate those farmers. And the restaurant celebrated its 15th anniversary 2 months ago.
Wow, congrats. That's multiple lifetimes in a restaurant.
Yeah, that's 795 dog years. And but about 3 years ago, we found in Sacramento, we lost a lot of people to death by suicide early in 2018 and started talking about it as restaurateurs and chefs. What's our responsibility? How we contributed and how could we help? And where was that going on? The community became really involved. All 4 major health groups came on board and put together this program called I Got Your Back, which is, as you said, so it's making sure that the leadership team supports a conversation about mental health, that you're providing peer outlets for talking to people, and that you're giving them resources. The top, that's a change, right? We were ready as chefs and owners. The peer resources are already there, right? There's the waitress that everyone thinks of as mom, the crazy bartender, the big fuzzy cook, who everyone's already talking to. So that was more of an introduction of utilizing someone in a different way. And then the resources came from the website that people built together. In order to keep it going, though, we did the low tech thing, which is, my wife said, the conversation needs to happen every day. It's a box, 4 colors. You have a picture. Drop in how you're feeling that day. And then I'm that guy.
well, while your dog is barking, your technology, I love that. We're talking high tech, low tech. Sophie, pop up the picture from the last time we had you on of the box. Great picture. I wanted the fuzzy picture, and for anybody who's just listening, it very much is a shoebox, arts and crafts with 4 little faces, an angry face, a question mark face, a smiley face, different colors, and you would take the color of kind of your mood, where you're at that day, drop it into the box, and then we
talk about lineup, right? So then lineup, you say, here's what's new, here's what's out, here's who's coming in. Jensen Cummings is coming in for dinner tonight. Buff them out. Here's the temperature of the restaurant, because everybody drops in when they check in, they drop in a colored tag. 9 happies, 2 neutrals, 3 angries. We have 4 people in the weeds, the blue color, right? The stressed out. What are we going to do to help us get through tonight, have a successful night? If you're one of the blue people, what can we do to help you in the weeds? And what are you going to learn from tonight to help others next time when you're not in the weeds? And that's it. And then the magic, the conversation really begins to happen when you're buffing glasses, pulling mats, making stock, getting ready. It's those in-between spaces where you now created the opportunity, permission for those conversations to take place.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. And again, it's this, we talk about mental health mise en place a lot. Like, what are we good at? We're good at setting our stations. We're good at pre-shift. This very much feels like, okay, what are our features for the day? Are we tasting some new menu items? Are we tasting something that the sous chef is putting up for a special tonight? What's the new wine that we just got in? What are the low calls? What are the 86? What's the temperature of everybody's mood? It becomes very, very matter of fact in kind of this programmatic way that we approach going into a service, a busy service. And that allows it to sometimes not be so heavy without pushing it aside. And those are the two dynamics that are at play a lot. So I appreciate that. We'll dig into that a little bit. I want to bring in Jordan now to join us. Jordan Boesch with 7 Shifts. Jordan, good to see you.
Hey there.
All right. So Jordan, tell us a little bit about 7 Shifts. Sorry, I'm already jumping ahead into the amazing conversation we're going to have. Tell us a little bit about 7 Shifts for anybody who's not familiar. Obviously, we've been collaborating through all of 2021 and had you on quite a few times. But give us a little bit of background of you and 7 Shifts first.
Yeah, so a little bit of background on me really quickly. I grew up working for my dad, who ran some quick service restaurants, and so did my grandparents. So naturally, I got to work in them and experience it firsthand. And eventually tried to solve a pain point around just scheduling workers and trying to think that I could build something to help my dad solve that problem, and built something really small that over time became 7 Shifts and is obviously a much bigger company now. But that's kind of where that started. And in terms of where 7 Shifts focuses today, at our core, we're kind of a team management platform for the restaurant space. So scheduling and communication was really kind of at the core of what we built, and that, this is not something that can just a schedule just can't be made in a vacuum. There's a lot of collaboration that has to occur from both parties to actually make this happen. And then as we've evolved the product, we've established more of a vision around what we refer to as the employee life cycle. So everything from the moment a restaurant worker is hired to your team, they're onboarded, they're trained, they're scheduled using our core product, and then they're paid using a payroll company, and they're effectively retained. And that's really the engaged part until they either quit or are terminated. So we take less of a strictly back of office type of approach to team management. We more so kind of try to balance the scales of ensuring that operators can still budget and hit their targets accordingly, but make sure their staff are getting the shifts they want in accordance with what the confines are of the business, and making sure that there's open dialogue and communication happening within our platform, and that there are no surprises. And so we've really taken kind of how, a lot of aspects of how we run our business at 7 Shifts, and how we value people and the culture here, and try to really build a lot of those functions and learnings that we've had scaling up our company into other businesses like restaurants, and ensuring that there's a lot of those good behavioral traits that we're trying to match and kind of change at the same time. So
yeah, and you mentioned a growing company. I mean, big shout out. Just saw that Danny Meyer's group put a serious investment into your Series B. So now you're going to have more opportunity to grow this thing. Higher expectations, which I think you and your team are game for. What I'm fascinated in, though, is the reason we collaborate with 7 Shifts and not a lot of other tech companies is because so often tech companies are looking for this perfect technology solution, and they don't recognize that it's how do we have the server whose mom, or the fuzzy cook, all of that Patrick mentioned, and utilize those abilities to communicate in the way that restaurant people communicate, and deploy that with a technology solution that's actually a human solution. And so that's been the fascinating part, where too often it's this forced measure of technology into a system of humans that are looking and having a different experience. And so that was fascinating. The Engage tool, which I know you're still tweaking and learning about and evolving, I was so fascinated and wanted to get the two of you together because Patrick asked this question, and it has a very specific sequence. How are you doing, comma, really? And the comma really is where it's not the canned question that we're guilty of in hospitality, something, how is everything? Everything is fine. Canned questions get canned answers, right? The comma really. And the comma really felt like that's where Engage created an opportunity. And the fact that you created Engage, and I'll let you tell everyone what it is, based on seeing your father's ability to sit down and personally check in with his team, how do you scale that through your lens of technology? So tell us about the Engage tool. And I want to get into that a little bit, as I think that's an extension of what Patrick is doing to allow the technology to allow Patrick to not get any more gray hair or lose any more hair and be able to not have to wear all the hats, right? I know Patrick would greatly appreciate that. Tell us a little bit about the Engage tool.
I can't promise that it's going to make you not lose hair. I mean, just working in the restaurant industry is
true story.
Enough said. Very, very, very hardworking individuals in this industry.
I have a high forehead.
Yeah,
that's right.
And the I mean, like, thank you for the congrats around the Series B, like, and having the support of Danny Meyer. Like, we think very philosophically similar to Danny and how Danny thinks of his teams and restaurants. And so
you guys are 51%ers. I see it for sure. It makes total sense.
Yeah, we are, like, through and through. I think even being where we're based, like Saskatoon, there's not a whole lot of tech companies here. There's not a lot of people that have done that thing before. So it's really like, can we recruit and can we recruit people that are that show incredible passion and desire and can learn quickly on their feet and get them up to speed with the other part of what's required as it relates to training them on the tools. But that EQ part is really important. In terms of the Engage product, this was really, we saw a lot of products in the market that were basically just kind of, like I said, analytics, back office stuff with like a bunch of charts that just show like sales numbers and like break it up into categories. And like, man, you can get that on your POS. Like, there's like, how does that tell you? Ultimately, you are a place of business that's employing people, and people are driving tremendous amount of value and have a larger impact than you probably think of over what you produce. And so, can we, bring some of those indicators that we think are important to the forefront of the manager and help them monitor that, not just the sales side of their business, but also the people side, and really, it's not restaurant specific. This is all businesses should do this. Like, it's a business employs humans, and humans are complex folks. And we wanted to have something whereby we can combine the feedback from employees of how they felt their shift went, and also marrying it with some of the data that we know about, what you said earlier, which is, okay, so-and-so showed up on time and now they're always late, and looking at that paired with their shift feedback score and looking at it and saying, oh, well, their shift feedback's been really negative lately. Maybe that is correlated to them not showing up. Maybe this is an opportune time to just say, how's it going? Pull that person aside and just have like a really, disarming conversation about like, hey, like, is everything okay? Similar to Patrick's method in terms of, how are you feeling, comma, really. I actually really love that, Patrick, by the way. I love the comma, really part.
Best.
I may have to steal that from you. That's such a great idea to like, just like, hey, like, let's tell me how you really feel. And so I think what we did is like, kind of, I think it's just scratching the surface. And it's really trying to encourage managers in restaurants to just have that conversation with folks, because the restaurant industry employs the highest number of teenagers out of any private industry in the US. There's a ton of first-time managers that aren't really great at just keeping a pulse on their people. Like, it's their first time. Like, maybe you can't blame them to some respect, but can we give them those extra nudges to be like, hey, Sally or John, like these folks are are appearing disengaged, and it's because of their feedback score has been low, and also their attendance hasn't been all that great, and they're giving away all their shifts, and they don't normally do that, and that's kind of a flag in our system. They might be out the door. They might have one foot out the door.
Yep.
But if you can have a conversation with them, and maybe it's something as simple like, oh, my grandma's sick, or my dog died, and maybe it's just having a very simple human conversation. We're not trying to use robots to manage. That's not really it. We're trying to use some like very high level indicators, just have a very human conversation for an industry that is highly, highly human centric.
We're in the relationship business, and no relationship was ever built by a product or a service or a restaurant. Those just create the space, the opportunity, the consistency for like-minded people with similar tastes to be able to develop their relationship. They talk about the people business. Every business is the people business. We're uniquely in a relationship building business, and that happens internally and externally. And so I really, really want to focus on that point. So Patrick, for you, as Jordan's talking, I'm like, all the times that I wish I could have checked in with somebody, I just was only there 70 hours a week. So how could I check in with everybody, right? And so the ability to have the technology just support us, just to throw a little blip out there to say, hey, I know you're on your 12th straight shift, but by the way, Rosa might need a little bit of a check-in. Rosa probably was that blue for the 5th straight day. So let's take a moment. I want you to reflect on that a little bit, Patrick, as the operator, who's created this low-tech solution, who, could potentially be looking at a high-tech solution. What would be the challenges that you're facing? Do you see opportunity for this? Can we give Jordan some insight further to kind of develop something like this? As he mentioned, just scratching the surface. Just kind of wanted your feedback on this, because I thought you'd have a really good insight into this piece of technology.
So the best part would be that here's a nudge, right? If you're looking at these analytics and it just pops in your mind, and here's something that you're going to write down in your book, right? I mean, maybe young kids will do something else, but we all have moleskins in our pocket and write that down on our task list to check in with that person. Like that can be really valuable. It also can be a great tool because it'll take you out of your own head, which I think is what gets in the way for lots of us most of the time, is that you're right. This is the 12th shift. Yes, we're busy. I could fog lighting chicken didn't bring the chicken in today. And where is the peaches are too hard. And yep. And your grandmother died. Like, really, dude, come on. Right. It's not the appropriate way. So that's a great sense of the tool. And then the challenge I can see is learning, right? Is that as we reopen after the pandemic, a lot of what we've been doing in changing policies and the way we operate has been teaching, right? And it's hard. There's a couple of things for us. One, it's hard to remember what I don't know, right? I've been cooking for 35 years, so it's really difficult to teach someone how to do a beurre blanc and not be snarky when they break it.
Right.
Because I'm thinking mostly like, how do you break that? And then two, so not only how do you learn yourself, how do you create the environment where everybody learns, or actually more specifically for 7 shifts, everybody buys in and adapts, right? Early on, and I got your back, because we'd had all those people dying by suicide, there was a really window of opportunity for everyone to buy into mental health is important to talk about, and we're all messed up and we want help too. But how do you, and the box, Bob and making the box meant that the conversation happened every day. And so there were a few people who were like, dude, that's way too Californian for me. You want to talk about feelings? I'm in the restaurant business. I make drinks. But those people, and within a couple of months, were the ones who came back and said, you're not including me in those conversations. I said, yes, we are. And then they said, well, I do this every day. I said, yes, I know. But you didn't want to admit it. So that's cool, right? You might not be wearing the t-shirt, but you're still doing the work. Right. Yep. And so how can you use your tool to get everyone into that conversation so that it becomes the mainstream conversation? So that hopefully I get to the point where I notice and have a conversation with Rosa that she's not doing well before looking at the app. I see that she's been late a few times or that her feedback is negative. Right. And it's never, Jensen, to your point, never going to be perfect. But if we can get close to better, right, then that's where it is. And how does everyone get involved so that everyone can help make us close to better?
That adoption is key. You know, what's interesting about what you said is we do have to break down that stigma of the tough guy, tough gal mentality that we so often have in this industry. And our ability to adapt in the moment is a strength. It also means that we don't think long term enough and our own long term needs and support of each other, which I think is important. The other thing that's really key, and I think Jordan and what Seven Shifts is doing is important, and what we're focused on at Best Served is like the meaningful and impactful conversations that Patrick, myself, our good friend Hassel Aviles from Not 9 to 5 org have had are really impactful to kind of inspire and spark something. And then Engage tool can create that comma so that you can ask the really, but it becomes like an SOP, right? Once you've learned it, you don't need to look at how to make a beurre blanc anymore. It becomes intuitive. Yet we needed the recipe, we needed the Engage tool to create that training so that the adoption of us making it a regular and matter-of-fact thing is super important. But none of those things can live in a vacuum. It's why we're taking, let's say, the box and I Got Your Back, and we're also taking what we've learned from mental health first aid and the Connect program that Hassel has, and now we're bringing that and actually applying that into business models that Best Served is developing so that they actually have the tools and the resources, and then bringing Seven Shifts into those projects so that they have the Engage tool, so that they have the thinking and inspiration, that they have the box, that they have the mental health first aid, and they have the Engage tool, because all of those things, and it's on paper in their HR policies. These are the ways that we're going to make systemic change across the industry. So for me, like, there is no difference between, I got to bring this photo up again because I love it.
It's amazing. I love this.
With the box.
That's my wife, who is brilliant, right? That's her idea.
Really,
no words.
So simple.
And no words, right? Because for us, 30% are English as a second language, right? Maybe 40%. 10% of us, their first language is neither English nor Spanish. Wow. And so, but everyone understands a smiley face.
Everyone understands that. And so for me, that's the thing. The box, low tech, Engage tool, high tech, policy and procedures and training within the restaurants. There's no creating a prep list of here's what I got to do today. And I got to check in with Rosa, and we got to talk about the box at pre-shift. To me, those things all can happen in the way that we are good within the industry of creating really complex systems to build relationships and ingenuity between people. So that's what I'm trying to connect. Like, we can't do all of this in this episode, Jordan and Patrick. And I really want to connect the two of you, because there's something, the comma, the Engage tool being the comma, and having the context of like the Engage tool being an extension of your thinking. That's where I think the magic is going to happen in what we're trying to accomplish, all of us, and doing it in our own ways and connecting those dots is going to be key. So kind of want to like leave it at that, but let each of you kind of take one more moment to kind of any hopes that you have coming out of this. But I'm throwing down the gauntlet for the three of us and so many other thinkers and leaders and individuals who are just trying to think and do differently. We have to do better. We have to be better in this industry. I think that's clear. We have a lot of work to do. And so conversations like this are only step one. So I'd be interested, Patrick, for you, kind of, what are some hopes? Do you see the opportunity for technology become more a part of your process and the opportunity of that? Is that interesting to you? Maybe take us out with your thoughts on.
Yeah, so I'm always optimistic, right? I'm always hopeful.
You are an optimist.
That things can get better. And after all this time, it certainly helped get me this far. But I think that if we look at tools and we look at anything as an opportunity, we'll take food from any farmer, right? And we'll take help from anywhere we can get it. And having the technology certainly would make our lives easier, and for us as leaders, clear to see how it can help us specifically. And the challenge then is to bring that confidence, right? You need the trust of your staff to see that these tools work. So while I can see 7 shifts as good for me to remind me to check in with Rosa, what I would hope is that everyone would embrace it so that the entire ecosystem, everyone in our shop, is looking for, tracking, and checking in on those signs and symptoms from everyone, so that it makes the whole organism better, right? And that's our responsibility as leaders, is to start from that frame, say this is real, and help it, not push it down, but help it filter down organically so that people embrace it and make the world better.
And I'm pushing that even further. I want the bottom up mentality of meritocracy. Restaurants have the massive opportunity to shift the rigid hierarchy we've been kind of stuck in for a long time. And my best lessons even today come from dishwashers, come from bussers, come from servers, because I think that they are living their own truth and reality. And sometimes we romantically remember the good old days of when we were coming up in the industry and all these things, and staying in the moment with them is so, so important. So I want to take that even further. And, you know, Unsung Hospitality Heroes is the whole reason we started this. So Patrick, I really appreciate that. Jordan, for you, what, I know the way your brain works. You got notes to take. You're going to throw some things into one of your quick team meetings and be like, "Hey, new thought. What thought bubble
taking notes
was created?" I know you. What thought bubbles were created today that we might be able to see 7 Shifts extend as far as the Engage tool or any of the other ways that you guys are looking to kind of activate for the industry?
Yeah, I just think going a little bit, like taking a step further, like Patrick alluded to, like not just kind of like even at the end of not just at the end of your shift of how you're doing, but like even prior to starting, like, can we get a sense on, you know, on that, and how can we help that individual potentially prior to starting the shift? You know, I think that having those conversations prior and after are going to be important, because it obviously affects that individual. It affects the customers too, right? Like you definitely want to be able to have that gauge. You definitely don't want to find out after the fact that every person that was working that day was just having a bad day prior to coming in. It just changes, right? So I think you know, I'd love to connect after, Patrick, even just to kind of like learn a little bit from you, a little bit more in terms of how you think about this stuff, because I think that it's really critical. And it's not, yeah, tech can only augment like great processes that are just done in person and through the people that you have, and those types of learning. So my goal is always to combine both of those realms to make something really, really great and impactful.
I like that, Jordan. The beginning of the shift, sometimes the end of the shift could be too late, from the human and emotional labor that goes into that on one aspect, and also the financial burden. We know that somebody's diminished mood is less dollars that the restaurant can generate, both from top end and from efficiency in the bottom end. So being able to engage, being able to ask that question, how are you really, in a multitude of ways at multiple points within their employee life cycle and within their day-to-day, is going to be key. We got a lot of work to do, gentlemen. We could talk for hours and hours. Sophie, we'll make sure and connect Jordan and Patrick in the comments as always, so that you can get access to these tools and resources, because they're very, very important. And thanks to both of you for this, for all the work we've gotten to do over the last months. Really appreciate every time that talk to either of you. I'm inspired, and our team, they get a whole bunch of, we got to think about this, we got to think about that. So anytime I get thinking, and anybody in our industry gets thinking, it creates the opportunity for action. And I think that's what the two of you are all about. Thank you so much for being on once again.
And thanks to everybody in the industry who works with us, right? And makes us fulfill the dream. We appreciate you out there.
Could not do it without 100%. The millions of those who commit to feeding their community. Essential doesn't even begin to cover it. We call them indispensable, because they truly are everything. The reason that the three of us do what we do. So thanks to Patrick Mulvaney of Mulvaney BNL and I Got Your Back, as well as Jordan from 7 Shifts. We'll be checking in with you early and often. Both of you have a great rest of your day.
All right. Thanks. Great meeting you, Patrick.
See ya.
See you, Jensen.
All right, everybody. That is it for today's episode. Once again, this was Best Served Podcast 325. Can tech support restaurant mental health? The answer is yes. There's details to figure out. And people like Patrick and Jordan, you know, I am all about connecting people, bringing people together, bringing ideas. I am no longer an expert for this industry, even though I may know a lot. I have given up that title so that I can just hold space for great ideas, great people from all levels and every facet to be able to come to the forefront, to share their ideas, to share their experiences, to have real conversations, really. I appreciate Patrick for that, and Jordan as well. That is it. I hope all of you millions of indispensables who tune into this. I'm so grateful to all of you. And I hope that none of you are blue today. And if you are blue today, please check in with each other. It matters. Cheers.